Jess, I'll come to you first on this. You obviously wanted a City to drop points for the title race, but you were never going to be able to rely on Spurs, were you?
Nah, no. I mean, even just watching them, it was like they were winning, like Spurs were winning, but it didn't feel real because they were so bad and it was so lucky. And I was like, man, like this would be amazing because it would hurt them to win a game that ultimately helped us. But, they couldn't hold on to it. Holding four in the second half when you're supposed to be the best second half team in the league is pretty damning. It's Spursy, if I could say that. And yeah, so way to go, Spurs. I mean, we don't expect anything else from you, but way to go. But the best thing about it is that they embarrassed themselves in the process, and I at least got to laugh at that. But when are we not laughing at Spurs?
I mean, I want to be a bit extreme, if you'd allow me to do that, Terry.
Always.
Now, I think that there's like a new king. I think his name is Charles. So I don't know what power Charles has. I would ask Charles that, can you throw Tottenham out of the United Kingdom? Just throw the whole club out. Because my thing is, I had everything, because if me and Pep were not friends, so I had everything prepped for a live stream to abuse Pep. How do you capitulate in 23 minutes? Like, how is that possible? So my thing is that I really do believe that Tottenham might be the biggest losers of all time. Like, literally, like, I've done all the calculations. These guys are the biggest losers of all time. And also, I have no sympathy for them because that clown Levy did not allow the greatest manager of all time, Mourinho, to play that final. Mourinho plays that final, he wins a trophy for Tottenham. So I think this is karma for what he did to Uncle Mo, the greatest manager of all time. But for me, for Tottenham, throw them out. They are a disgrace. They have the worst mentality on the planet. Horrible, horrible, horrible team. Disgusting, terrible, useless, pointless.
I think a lot of people would agree with your in terms of being the biggest joke out there. You know what really stood out to me, and obviously Ty and G weren't here last week, but I got into a little bit with George. And George and Patrick and loads of Spurs fans were like, no, we don't really care about Arsenal. It's all about us and our progression. And we're like, listen, I think the real reason Spurs fans are angry is not Enoch, Levy, the tactics. It's because Arsenal are top of the league. And then you had this guy, legitimately, take a listen to this. This guy phoned in to Talk Sport and listen. This is GJ. He is a Spurs fan. Listen to him. Listen to this.
Come on, City. Come on, City.
What?
Come on, City.
What?
I am absolutely buzzing, lads. Brilliant. Brilliant. What I wanted tonight...
Why, GJ? Why? Why are you buzzing?
Because I hate Arsenal. I can't stand them. And they...
So you see what he's saying then? And that is why Tottenham always fail. Because that isn't one guy. And I said in the video, like, one of the only Tottenham fans online that I never put in this category is Expressions because he wants to win. 80 to 85% of Tottenham fans are happy no matter what they do, as long as they are above Arsenal. That is literally it. That is Tottenham. And when you have that mentality as a fan base, it seeps into the dressing room and into the boardroom, and mediocrity is acceptable. And that club allows mediocrity because they have no standards as a fan base to hold their club. Imagine being happy after that. For me, it's a disgrace. What do you think, G? Like, I'd love to get your opinion on Tottenham as a whole, the hole they're in, and of course, the fact their fans seem happy that they're losing might help Arsenal only halfway through the season.
I feel like it's a bit harsh here to say, like, to get onto them too much against a Manchester City team. Like, this is Manchester City. At the end of the day, they'll do that to anybody. Like, we can't act like they didn't just beat Chelsea, in the, was it the Carabao Cup not too long ago. So, this is a team that can hit anybody for four. So I understand, yes, second half, they were 2-0 up. City were always going to score at least 1 or 2 goals in that game. I think for them, what they needed to do was kind of just continue what they were doing because they were kind of in momentum at that time. I felt like in that second half, they probably thought maybe if we sit back for a little bit, hold City, then they'll be good to go. But they've just decided to completely just play a completely different game. And it's ended up that City have just been relentless. But City can do that to anybody. Like, we can't act like this isn't new. They've done it to United. They've done it to us. They've done it to Arsenal. They've done it to Chelsea. They've done it to everybody. So, Spurs ain't special. And I think the situation with Antonio Conte this season, they're caught in a catch-22 because they've got a world-class manager who's demanding world-class football. Unfortunately, they haven't really got that at this current moment in time. Whether Daniel Levy can, get that for him, I don't really know. It just depends on what he's willing to do, whether he's willing to break the bank, whether he's willing to do his all to make sure that Tottenham can, fight for the top honours. But I'm looking at Tottenham this season. I wouldn't be too concerned with the way they're playing, because when they were winning, nobody cared. Spurs fans didn't care. They were winning games. No one's going to complain if you're playing boring football. I feel like Conte is probably demanding a bit too much from that Spurs team. And I think that he's not really read the room, in my personal opinion. And because he hasn't read the room properly, it's not really correlating between fans, owner, and the manager. And it's just seeping through to the players. And now they're just hitting a crazy run of form where this season, it's like they've got a mental block. I mean, why would you be happy as fans anyway to finish above Arsenal? I mean, what if Arsenal finished 10th and you finished 9th? Would that be a successful season? Like, would that be something that you'd be happy with?
Then it would, though. I mean, the season that we finished, the second season that we finished 8th, they finished 7th with like 2 points more than us, and they were celebrating the shit out of it. So that is their kind of MO. And I get the whole aspect of City can do this to everybody, but I think the context of this is that, when you're supposed to be like a top 4 team, Champions League level team, you don't hold 4 really to anybody, even if it is City. You can at least hold on to a lead a little bit, not concede 2 goals in 5 seconds or whatever it was. Like, I think there's context to be applied, because I think at the beginning of last season, we lost to them 5-0, and we weren't even supposed to be a Champions League team. And people went in on us, regardless of where we were in our project and all that. It was unacceptable for a team of Arsenal stature, a top 6 team, traditional top 6 team, to hold 5, even though it was Manchester City. So I understand the context of it, but I still think, in retrospect, none of us should be holding 5 or 6 or 4 or whatever to any of us. Do you know what I mean? Especially if you have a 2-0 lead.
And also it's like it's in 20. I mean, I know it's City and so forth. 20 minutes.
I know, but it's City. Like,
no, you can't say it's City.
I'm with G here, because I'm with G here, because when you apply actual common like football logic to it, can all of us say we were watching that game, and when Man City score in the 55th minute or whatever it was, I was sitting there straight away and I was like, gee, do you know what? The second and third's coming. My initial instinct told me that. I weren't sitting there thinking, do you know what? I can see Spurs grabbing another one. Even when Perisic had it cleared off the line and hit the post and whatnot, I sat and watched that game and I was like, if City get a goal before 65 minutes, they will win this game. No Spurs form is really showing us that they're going to see out the game. Spurs are not playing great football anyway. We've got to apply context to it in terms of the players Spurs have got. Antonio Conte has not got great players for the system he wants to play. The best player in midfield for them is Bentancur this season. He's just come back from the World Cup and he's had a hamstring injury. So he's not fully fit anyway to play 90 minutes. He started. He's going to get pulled. Kulusevski, he hasn't played for 3 months. He played against Arsenal in the North London derby and actually played well, but that's his second game. So the type of players they need to probably be effective against Man City weren't probably fully fit anyway. So for me, as soon as City got one, I was waiting for the second and third to go in. And I don't think you guys sat there at 55 minutes when Alvarez scored and said, yeah, Spurs are going to hold this out. Spurs are even going to get a draw. You knew them goals were coming.
No. Okay, no. 100%. I knew, like, at halftime, I tweeted that this could go either way. Either we're going to clown Pep or we're going to clown Tottenham. So my thing is that I didn't think that Tottenham were going to win when it was 2-0 up. It's the manner in which it's happened. It's how quickly it's happened, and it's the way in which they went down. Like, if City win 3-2, but like they score the first after like 5 minutes, another 20 minutes, and it's like it's a long process, fine. It's just how quickly Tottenham completely capitulated. Because for me, I think that we have to connect to the dots. This is in relation to the Arsenal game. And also, when do we have a conversation about that bomb, Hugo Lloris? How did he get beaten on the near post in 2 successive games?
We've been having this conversation for...
but we have to have a realer conversation.
For like 5-6 years, because...
No, we have to have a realer one. We have to have a realer one now.
No, I think when it comes...
It's mad.
Sorry,
he's a captain. He's and Have Hope's bang on right, because if you think about the manager problem they have, it's either with Antonio Conte for me, Terry, it's either you back him fully or you just get rid of him now and get another manager in. There's no in between. You can't be playing tug of war with Antonio Conte. And then when you've got your captain Hugo Lloris putting in performance like that. I don't care if your captain's not the best player. Look at Jordan Henderson. I don't rate Jordan Henderson, by the way, but he drops a 7 out of 10 and leads by example. Lloris doesn't even lead by example. He couldn't even lead my nephew to school. So the bottom line is, do you know what I'm saying? I think there's a problem from captain to manager and to players like Harry Kane.
But do you think when you look at Spurs, for example, I don't know, I look at Arsenal now of this season, and I looked at, let's say, Liverpool when they were starting to do pretty well. I'll use those two teams. They were able to get players in who were winners. So in Arsenal's case, they were able to get in Zinchenko and Jesus, two guys who have been winning with Manchester City, know what it's like to come into a team that might not be doing well, are trying to get there, but they've already got that winning culture breaded in them. Liverpool, we ended up getting someone like a James Milner. I know that's only one player, a guy who's experienced but knows what it's like to win. With Tottenham, I'm trying to think off the top of my head, and I can't think of anybody bar Hugo Lloris with his international team, but not at club level. Who's coming in there and saying, okay, cool, this is what it takes week in, week out to win. The manager can keep telling you all of the instructions and this, that, and the third. But when you haven't got a player on the pitch or a player in the dressing room who's able to just speak to certain players and say, look, from day to day, this is what we do. If you guys are trying to win the Premier League or Carabao Cup or whatever it is, this is how you do it. This is what we do to get.
It's like Casemiro. It's like United getting Casemiro. Once Casemiro comes in, it's like, I am experienced in winning Champions Leagues. I won 3 Champions Leagues back to back, being not just a bandwagon, but an integral part of that winning formula. When Chelsea, now it may be one thing, but when Chelsea brought in Conte, that was huge because Conte was pivotal to Leicester City performing the miracle. The issue is Levy. I told you, Tottenham Stadium looks like the Star Trek Enterprise. It looks like a spaceship. So my thing is that if you have a spaceship as a stadium, I expect you to actually win things. Levy is only concerned about business. That's it. He's only concerned about business. He doesn't care about winning. He's never cared about winning. He just cares about having the NFL team in there, having the stadium look good, earn a bit of money. And let's just compete. Basically, it's vibes. It's just vibes at Tottenham. So nah.
No, I get that. I want to ask Nobbins a question here. Well, I think everybody would agree that this isn't all on Antonio Conte. But based on how he's talking, you played them last night. You saw the body language. You watched it. It was your team that came back, by the way, as you know. Can you see Antonio Conte lasting? Can you see this being can you see the contract being renewed in the summer as an example?
No, I can't, to be honest. For me, this sort of stinks of unstoppable force meets immovable object, in that Conte recently has been a serial winner. Spurs are the exact antithesis of serial winners. They are serial bottlers, as we've seen, and they don't win stuff. Just before I finish that point, I just thought it was interesting the chat we just had there. Most people saying that, it was inevitable City were going to come back. I as a City fan watching that, I don't agree with that. I think this is a very poor City side in respect of recent performances. And if I was a Spurs fan, I'd be even more disappointed, because this was a City team that could have been got at 0-0, never mind at 2-0 at half time when the goals have been gifted to you. So that's even more disappointing from a Spurs perspective. What I would say on Conte is it'll be interesting to hear what Spurs fans think about Conte, because I actually know. I thought it was a really good appointment. I think if Conte is going to work, he needs to be given the tools to thrive. If you look at his Inter Milan team, first of all, let's look at his managerial rise. Like, he started a decade of dominance with Juventus. In the interim, he went to Chelsea and won a Premier League title with Victor Moses as a wing-back. He then goes back to Italy and ends Juventus's decade of dominance with Inter Milan, and then comes to Spurs, and you expect him to do well, but he doesn't. And I thought he was going to do a blueprint of what he did at Inter Milan in respect of, I thought he was going to play the 3-5-2, but Spurs seem to be going for this sort of 3-4-3-3, sort of 3-4-2-1. And the reason why I don't think it will work long term is because I don't think that's the right formation. I don't know whether that's to do with the personnel, but I think that the issue that Spurs will find if you play that style, you're going to get overrun in the midfield. The issue with Spurs, in my opinion, is there's not enough progression from the central players. Who did Conte have at Inter Milan who did that? Ironically enough, it was a former Spurs player. He had Christian Eriksen in that sort of number 10 role. For me, that is exactly what Spurs need. Højbjerg and Bentancur, as good as they are, as central midfielders, for me, they don't provide enough creativity and dynamism in respect of breaking the lines. So I think if Conte was to stay, Terry, I know it's a long-winded way of answering your question, but if Conte was to stay and would want to stay, I think he has to be backed. That's the reason why he left Inter Milan. But that ain't going to happen with Levy at the helm and making all those decisions. So I think that serious change would have to be made in respect of personnel, but I can't see that happening.
Yeah, because I think Robin's right. I just think with Conte, same thing with Chelsea. And anyway, if he doesn't give you success in the first 2 years, sack him. Conte is not a long-term manager. See, Juve was Calciopoli tax. Like, guys were sent to Serie B and sent to jail and prison, so that doesn't count. So, but with everywhere else, Italy at the Euros, Inter Milan, Chelsea, he gives you success either in the first year or the second year. He's not a 5-6 year rebuild like a Fergie kind of a manager. So if he doesn't give you that success, so for Tottenham, he's not winning a trophy in these 2 years, sack him. You know, as a sack him, it's over now. It's over. So.
Yeah, I think it's going to be very interesting to see what happens with Tottenham. And I think that I rate Antonio Conte as a winning manager, but there's one thing you have to give him, and Ty's already said it. You give him exactly what he wants or he fails. And Tottenham never give any manager what they want. So they need someone in who is willing, who can get a tune out of anything. Like a Pep Guardiola would never be any good at Tottenham, because to win and be the manager he is, he needs to be able to keep spending. There's a reason that he did brilliantly at Barca. But there's a reason that he picks and only ever picks the best team in the country that has the most amount of money in the monopoly. I think he could do a very good job at a club that needs rebuilding or that has limited budget. I still think he could win titles, and he's also earned the right to be at those clubs as well. But Antonio Conte, very toxic when he doesn't get what he wants. So it's going to be intriguing to see how that goes.